All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live here for a matinee of shows. Tonight here on Sportswire Radio here in the UK, we're live, and then we'll be later on back in the evening, kind of flying backwards in time here in the United States. But this is going to be, I promise you, one hell of a journey tonight because our guest, he's the most viewed ever YouTube interview that we've ever had on Sportswire Radio in our 5 years, and he certainly had quite a resume, quite a background. He has been a wrestler, he's been a filmmaker, and he's now even going to be a fighter. And he's going to talk about why he's going to be a fighter and some. Our guest needs no further introduction, but because Dean Allmark said we've got to give him that introduction that's going to be even twice fold as him or better than anybody else that has ever come on here. And oh, by the way, as I pointed out, he is the most viewed interview we've ever had here on YouTube for Sports Wire Radio. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show filmmaker, now fighter, Luke, how you been?
Thank you for that, Mr. Price. Do you know what? I thought you got caught in the stream then. I thought I was going to try and do international first aid or something. Oh, that was excellent. Thank you.
I feel like my voice might need international voice aid after that intro because I was really working on that one. I was like, someone was like, this, I got to really give Luke a good one because, we had Dean Allmark on. And obviously, thank you, by the way, because I want to say it right off the bat. If it wasn't for you, I would not have had the opportunity, not once, but twice, to speak to one of the greatest wrestlers to ever come out of the UK, and Dean Allmark, the man that obviously trained you. Hopefully he could train you a little bit. We're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But again, I cannot thank you enough for that opportunity because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had that chance to speak with Dean Allmark. But obviously, Luke, I am excited to be with you because it's been just about almost a year since you last came on to Sportswire. In fact, it's about 10 and a half months since you came on the show the first time. Now we're going to do round two. It's going to be even better. It's going to be bigger, better, and better than the first one here because you are going to be going somewhere and you are going to be fighting. And I'm really curious about this because a lot of people are, because it's really, I think, something really, really unique. So Luke Leyland, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, tell us why you're going to be fighting in 2024.
So as you're right there, yeah, around about a year ago was the last time I was on the show. Yep. We spoke about different things that I may be getting up to. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was have the opportunity to travel around the world and try and get myself involved in some combat martial arts, and just mainly ones that we haven't really heard of before or seen before, or if we have heard of them, we haven't seen them in action before. So pretty much what I have done is around about, I think, a couple of years before that me and you actually met, I was on YouTube and I've noticed a couple of combat sports which I was really interested in. And one of them was Danbe boxing. Now, Danbe boxing is native to northern Nigeria. And basically with Danbe, if no one's ever seen it before, it's two opponents on what it looks like a sand pit surrounded by sandbags. And it's basically you're sitting there with one hand wrapped in a rope and the other hand is free. Now, the hand that's wrapped in rope, they call the spear, and that is used for attacking. And the other hand that is free, that is used for distance management and blocking as well. And you can also kick. So the first time I'd seen this, I thought it was a little scene out of a movie or something, just the way that these two people were going at each other and just the way that the crowd was and the drums and everything else. And I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
it's like it's kind of surreal. I mean, I was watching some of it myself today, and I was like, I don't know if I've seen anything like this. I mean, maybe a slap fighting, I suppose, and that's kind of gotten big. You've seen that on TV. I mean, I've heard the comparisons of MMA, but I don't even see it like this is really like very different. I mean, this is, I know you've done a lot of things in your life. I know obviously you wrestled once upon a time under a different name and such, but this is different. I mean, I don't even know how you kind of like mentally and physically prepare for something like this. This is really surreal what you're going to be going through, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first time I'd actually seen it, it was the uniqueness of it. I'd never seen anything like that before, so that's why I kept it in my mind. And then when the time was right, I thought, you know what, this is something I really want to get involved in. So I basically studied it and tried to find the leading promotion in it, which is African Warriors Fighting Championships. I got in touch with them and I told them my idea and what I'd like to do of just coming over and experiencing the culture of the area where Danbay is and getting involved in the training and possibly seeing if I can get involved in an exhibition. After a few meetings, they seemed happy for me to start training and coming over. And that's we're now at a point where we're literally a couple of weeks out from me traveling over and starting the journey. So yeah, it's something I'm absolutely looking forward to.
I had you on the first time, and there was certainly a journey that you were obviously going on. But I have to ask you a silly question. You're going to probably say you probably want to beat me up, kind of like in Dombe style when you actually go out there. But no, I was only kidding. Trying to work on my stand-up comedy these days. But I mean, are you nervous at all going and doing something like this and going to a part of the world that you probably, I would say, safe to say, don't have that much experience in, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. I did. That's one of the most questions to get asked about. I think sometimes because I come across quite calm and collected, people are like, "Are you nervous? Are you scared?"
I mean, you're always
And
on Instagram posting like inspirational stuff, motivational. You're always training early. I mean, we're speaking about with Dean, obviously, when Dean came on a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you're like Mr. like Cool Hand Luke almost. You're like literally like we're big movie guys. You're like Cool Hand Luke. That's why I'm kind of wondering, like, I mean, are you like nervous at all?
yeah, no, 100%. Them nerves are there. The sense of fear is there. The anxiousness is there. 100%. Of course, you get them feelings. Everyone going through anything similar to this, or even any fight or any boxing or anything at all, will have them feelings. And if they say they don't, they're lying. 100%. But one great quote that always sticks in the back of my mind is, "Fear is similar to a fire, and you can either use that fire to cook a steak or to burn your house down." And this is something I'm definitely looking to cook many steaks with here, but it's it's definitely something I'm feeling 100%. It's just how to control it. But what also helps me relax is that I see this as a destiny of mine to get involved in these type of sports and to get that experience of life. I honestly believe that life's true currency is experience, and this essentially will be a hell of an experience for me. So I'm looking forward to it.
Wow, life's true currency is experience. It's really fascinating that you said that.
Life's true to me personally, life's true currency is experience. Because at the end of the day, you can win and lose money 1,000 times over, but experiences and personal moments, no one can ever take them away from you. So this is the main reason I'm doing this, just to have that experience and to have a hell of a story to tell the grandkids one day. That it all started in that fire.
Oh, I think you're going to have some bigger stories than even Dino has. I mean, the fact that you're doing this, I mean, this is like, I have to say, this is awesome. I mean, the people that like would never dream or think about stepping out of their element. I think that's to me what I really respect a lot about this is, it could be easy to kind of just, stay in your lane. Maybe you want to go back out there and, go and compete in a wrestling match. Yeah, all right. You've done that before. That's comfortable. You're obviously talking about different things. When we had you on almost a year ago, maybe, filmmakers. Maybe you want to go and be a part of a student film project and help somebody with that. But no, you're doing something that's completely out of your element. And I think that that's really on a personal level. Yes, I've gotten to know you. Yes, you're definitely a friend. But I think the fact that you are doing something that you don't have to do, and you're going completely out of your own zone in a stage in your life that you don't have to do that, I really respect that. And I think a lot of people should really support you on this journey because of that, because I think it really kind of shows the character of who you are as a human being. Dean kind of spoke with that, obviously, the 2 times he's come on the show. But I really think that people should support you on this. And no matter what happens, respect the fact that you are going completely out of your comfort zone and doing something that you don't have to do.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I mean, I'll let you into a little secret. I'm actually going over there on my own. I'm not having anybody coming with me from Great Britain or anything. It's
Well, you wouldn't
myself.
need
I
Dean. You
was,
wouldn't need Dean. Wouldn't help you on this one.
yeah, yeah. No, to be fair, to be fair, it was I was meant to have one or two people come with me originally, but it's that never happened, and I knew this was a great experience and a great opportunity, so I thought I can't let it pass me by. So the only other way of me getting over there was going on my own. So this is something, as I say, I'm going over on my own. It's going to be quite nerve wracking, but it's again at the end of it is again the experience. So I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
that.
And I want to plug a few things on your behalf in a second. I want to say hello to a few people. First, my buddy Michael Blackheart, whose father-in-law is a referee from one of our beloved companies, XCW, Festus Davis. And he says, hello, Tom. Another great guest across the world. Wonderful to meet you. And I think that Luke there's no doubt about it that Luke is a great guest. And it's also easy to see why he is the most viewed interview we've ever had on Sportswire Radio on our YouTube page. So you can certainly see, you measure a man by his character and his judgment. This man is a great man. I want to say hello, obviously, to Big Dog. You are definitely a big dog for tuning into Sportswire Radio. Support to Luke from the Northwest UK. Obviously, you are definitely our champ. Michael also wants to, I think he's being facetious. You seem like a great guy. The first thing my wife said after hearing you talk was if you could read her bedtime story. He's only kidding. It's okay. We're not going to anybody bedtime stories. I want to say hello also to our first lady of Sportswire, Miss Zena, who says Dombe looks pretty awesome. And she also agrees with you a lot about those words of wisdom, because I don't have many words of wisdom. The only words I can have is basically do those intros. And by that time, I'll probably have no voice. But that's here nor there. I want to plug some of the things that where we might see you in a few minutes. But before I do that and unveil that banner, in terms of, let's say, going to where you're going to go, I know you're going there alone, but why go there alone? You've got a lot of friends out there, a lot of people that, would certainly want to partake in this journey with you. You're starting 2024. People might want to get away and, see you in this experience. So why go by yourself?
To be really honest with you, originally, as I say, there was meant to be one, maybe two people that was coming with me, but it's they never really wanted to, and it's really hard to find someone to come on this journey with me. And the truth of the matter is, two things. One, it's possibly ill education on the area, and probably some kind of fears going to certain areas that people have never been to before. And the other one is probably media influence. So sometimes the media influence isn't always positive, and it can make some people a little bit worried to go to certain places.
Sure.
And that's the experience. That's the reasons why I found it hard for some people to come with me. But after, as I say, speaking to African Warriors and the head of African Warriors, Maxwell Kalu, we can get into in a minute. He's
Sure.
he's a really positive guy, and he's helped me with all these negotiations and stuff. And he's really assuring about going over there and to what to visit and things like that. So I've made the decision there to, no one's going to go with me. Then I can't let this pass, and I'll go on my own. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wasn't like searching for people to go with me. I haven't actually reached out to that many people. I've just gone, do you know what? If it is me going over on my own, then so be it. And whatever happens, and hopefully it stays a great experience.
I have no doubt. And I have one follow-up on that, and I want to start plugging in a minute what you're going to be doing for the org, because people are really getting curious, because I'm getting messages from people offline. But in terms of like, let's say your habits, your day-to-day habits to get in tune with this. I've interviewed some boxers in my career. I've obviously interviewed thousands of wrestlers at this point. Who knows, right? I've interviewed professional athletes. I just had on a soccer coach or a football coach around the world last week on Sportzwire. Jason Facina. Jason actually played and did some stuff overseas. And Jason's become a very, very dear friend. But you're doing something completely different and completely surreal, and again, out of your element. So how do you, in terms of your daily habits, prepare yourself to go out where you're going to go, which we're going to talk about in a second? So I'm curious on that, and how do you prepare yourself for your daily habits to be ready for something like this?
Well, the first thing that I noticed that these Danbei fighters are fit. They are very fit.
I did see
so
that. I was surprised. I was like, wow, they're in better shape than even like some pro athletes I have on, even some wrestlers. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So that was something that stood out to me straight away. So I wanted to get me diet straight. I put myself through a little over a 3-month camp of just eating really clean, high protein foods, and making sure I was kind of strength training and trying to get a little bit of sparring in as well. And a little bit into my camp, I had actually one of my cousins, Kaylin Paul, who got in contact with me and said, it's where are you training? What are you doing? Do you fancy training with myself? And Kaylin's been he's been involved in Muay Thai and different combat sports like that. So he's been a massive help, and we both sat down and watched a lot of videos, and then we've come up with a bit of training regime on how to emulate getting in there really, and what to do next. So a lot of stuff I've dropped. I don't know if you can notice I've dropped a fair bit of weight since you've last seen me.
I have noticed that in the face. I have noticed it, and I've even noticed, like, because I'm up at all times of the day, but I even noticed on Instagram, like, you're out there at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I almost feel like it's not Luke Leyland, it's like Rocky Leyland. You're out there, you're training. I mean, like, I don't know, like, I thought I didn't sleep. I mean, I look at you and it's like you really, and you were in good shape to begin with. I had you on the first time, but I could see it a little bit that you've definitely, maybe lost some weight, but in a way, not that you've maybe like not eaten or fasted. More or less, I'm trying to think, almost like a cleaner diet. Have you gone on like a cleaner diet maybe? And that's kind of where some of that's come from?
100%, yeah. A cleaner diet is. I didn't want to be able to go over there and in the first round start blowing up. I wanted to really be able to represent myself really well. So that was one of the things. I'd drop a bit of weight, and the 5 o'clock in the morning runs. It's literally because of my work schedule. I have to get up that early to be able to fit that kind of run in.
Well,
before
I could tell you on this point,
to.
as somebody that actually goes out early in the morning, I actually enjoy in some ways being out there at like 4 or 5 in the morning, because it's almost like nobody's out there. Yeah, I mean, listen, in this time of the year, it is very depressing. I won't lie on that point, but in terms of like overall, like I enjoy it because I feel like you have that ability to kind of like focus and be in your own zone almost. So I think in some ways, actually, it's the best time to kind of like exercise or train more or less.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, the area that I'm in, there's a lot of runners around. So if you leave that until like say 7:30, 8, if I've got a day off, then you'll get about like 5 or 6 runners to the place where I run. And I generally don't like moving out the way and then having to stop and then letting people go. It's just so frustrating. There was one time I fell over a dog. It was just, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave it until 5 in the morning. I'm not going to get up any later. And that will hopefully, on the days that I'm working, suit me getting back, getting showered and getting prepared for work. So they're the only days I can kind of fit in running really. But usually after work, I'll try and fit in another training session then. And then I'll be training with Caleb as well, when we can fit some sessions in there.
That's really, really cool. And again, we are here with Mr. Luke Leyland. It's going to be one hell of a journey that he's going to be on here. We're actually going to plug it here in a second, because I'm going to tell you where Luke's going to be in a second, because you can check him out on Instagram at Luke Leyland1. You can also check out a thing called the African Warriors. We're going to be seeing him on a number of different platforms, Instagram and TikTok, African Warriors FC, YouTube, African Warriors Fight Championship, Twitter, African WFC and AfricanWarriorsFC.com, where you can see some more information on this. And again, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I also want to say hello to a number of different people out there. But, I'm curious. Okay, so obviously, let's talk about this. You're here. You're going to go and fight with the African Warriors. You've got 5 Dambe fights. You've got an exhibition. I mean, so do you know any of these fighters? I mean, like, have you gotten a chance to know them? Have you gotten a chance now that we're going to see you coming up here in a few weeks with this? I'm just curious on that overall aspect of it.
Well, I've been watching Dambe for some time now, so I do recognise some of the fighters. There's actually some of the fighters they use nicknames, and so
I
like
noticed that. I did notice that. I was like, wow, these guys, they may not be in WWE or UFC, but they seem like they got some of the lingo down.
yeah, no, definitely. One of the I'd say the more famous ones is someone called Coronavirus, who's one hell of a fighter. And obviously the name is, it's obviously coronavirus, but I think they choose.
Do people get the coronavirus when he knocks them down?
Well, I hope not, but it's but no, I think the kind of the certain culture around around Dambe is, I think they try and choose names of deadly diseases, or maybe like a name that like promotes fear and things like that. I think from what I can find out anyway. So these are the things that I'm going to be finding out a lot more about when I'm over there and stuff. But yeah, coronavirus is one I've been watching, and there's a couple more with a couple of different names. But I tend to wonder. I think when I go over there, and if I do represent myself really well in the fight, and I do as well as I think I can do, I wonder if I can maybe adopt a name, but I do worry about what name I could possibly adopt.
Well, I obviously brought one up, Cool Hand Luke, because you are very cool. You're obviously calm. You're obviously collected. That would be the obvious one, but you are certainly your own person. You may want to think of different names out there. I mean, maybe the audience on Sportswire, maybe other people out there can maybe, I don't know, maybe give you some ideas and names to come about with. And, some of those names out there that might want to think about giving names. We see Anthony Steele. I say hello to you. I want to also congratulate our new IMF hardcore champion, Mr. Omen Black, who's the boogeyman of the Midwest. Now, he has an interesting name, but I don't think Mr. Black would going to go out and do Dambe fighting. I don't know if anybody is familiar with it, but that'd be really fascinating to see how Omen could maybe hang with that. But I guess maybe people should kind of get in the conversation and think about what nickname that they should want to give you. I mean, I came up with Cool Hand Luke, but I think for you, you might want something more bigger, some badder, something better, so that's kind of something interesting to think about. What would be your nickname? I mean, what kind of name would you want?
To be honest, I'm not. I mean, I'm not the type of person to come up with my own nickname, to be honest. But do you know what? If someone on Sportswire wants to come up with one, let's see. As long as
I would love to see that. I would definitely love to see that. And I also want to ask you this question. I want to talk more about the African Warriors in a second. But in terms of the experience, in terms of the rules, for the audience that's listening, and talk about the rules, because I think the rules are fascinating. Because again, I know that if you push somebody and they fall to the ground, it's not considered a knockdown. It's 3 minutes of 3 rounds, and I believe basically if you hit them, you're knocked out, the fight is over. I mean, or something like that. Talk about the actual rules, because I know people for the first time, maybe they've heard of Dambe, maybe they've seen it on Vice, maybe they've seen it on the Dambe Warriors page, things like that. But I'm curious in terms of the exact rules for even the people that are coming in and out to this.
So yeah, so the rules from what I can see will be there's 3 minute rounds. And if I think they've altered it just to make it a bit more exciting and to make it a bit more fair. If you do get a knockdown by a push, I don't think they count that at all. I think it's a stand back up and then you can continue. Now, with me saying before with the wrapped hand, they use that for attack. They try and score a kill is what they call a kill, and that is a knockdown or a knockout. So when they score a knockdown, then they go straight through to the next round 2. And then obviously to keep it exciting, if that opponent then knocks the other opponent down, then they'll go straight through to round 3. I do believe that they did have a rule set of where if someone gets put down once, then that's the end of the fight. But I think now, just to make it a little bit, keep the longevity in it, I think it's if they get knocked down and it's not a knockout, then it's you go through to round 2. But if it's a straight KO and the ref deems it over, then then the fight's over.
It's fascinating, and I want to say hello also to my buddy Ron out there. Ron, how you doing, Ron? Ron, I think you'll like this interview because we are speaking with Mr. Luke Leyland, and Luke is actually going out there to fight in a part of the project for the African Warriors. It's the King of Dambe event, and it's going to be a really, really unique event. It's January the 13th. So everybody's thinking about Christmas gifts, thinking about New Year's resolutions, but Luke is going to be out there fighting, and it's going to be 5 Dambe fights in a special exhibition. You can actually find out more information. All the platforms are below. And also, if you want to follow Luke on Instagram, Luke Leyland 1. Luke is obviously our most viewed interview ever in YouTube on Sportswire radio history. So we love having Luke here. And again, we thank Luke for all the great opportunities here on Sportswire Radio. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Okay, let me get to a couple of comments here. Let me give you some comments on the air and off the air. Omen wants to say, nicknames are given. I've been called the boogeyman of the Midwest and the architect of violence. Steel is the real deal, but you see Atomic Titan calls himself the hardcore king. If you're a king, then I'm a god. Okay, very well. My lovely first lady of Sportswire, Miss Zena, would like to say also about that she says that it'll be a wonderful and fascinating adventure for you, and you'll do great things. We all appreciate that, and we're looking forward to it in the future. But okay, so obviously you go in here, African Warriors, January 13th. The crowd here. Let's talk about the crowd, because I was watching some of these fights, and you wouldn't notice it maybe in terms of the size, but they really get into it. So how do you kind of deal with that element of dealing with a crowd in a way you're probably not used to? Because I think a lot of times we talk, obviously you've wrestled, you know the deal, that you feed off the adrenaline of the crowd. So the crowd, how do you kind of deal with that? Because they're obviously going to be like really fascinated with you, and I don't know if they're going to be cheering for you.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure if they're going to be cheering for me, but to be fair, I mean, from the area where the King of Dambe event is held, that's in Katsina, and there's a Dambe arena there called the
Open Air Theater, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I believe that fits around 5,000 people. And hopefully, that can be filled to watch this. Now, if that is filled to watch it and there's 5,000 people there, then for me, I think this has a lot to do with the wrestling, the time that I was a wrestler, because when we only had a few people watching us, which was a couple of times that I've wrestled, for some reason that was a lot more nerve-wracking than when we had 800-900 people watching us. And I think for me, I'm more comfortable the more people that are watching. I think that comes from when I used to wrestle. I think that's the only place it can come from. So the more people for me, the better. But I don't know if they're going to be cheering. I mean, for me, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give my absolute best. And I honestly believe that I've got what it takes to be able to rock my opponents. And the opponent, Jan Sander, we can speak about in a minute, but
I want to do that. Yeah.
I do believe I believe I've got what it takes to put on a hell of a show. And I think whether to win or whether to lose, I can guarantee one thing, that the world of Dambe is going to know that Luke Leyland was on that sand in Katsina in the Open Air Theatre on the 13th of January. That I can guarantee.
I can't wait, and I wish I was there cheering for you to make it to 5,001 fans, because I would be in your corner. I would definitely be cheering. I would give you that introduction even, because I don't think you're going to get that introduction in Nigeria. I would give you that long introduction, Luke Leyland. It would be fascinating. If you are interested in African Warriors, if you are out there, I am available. So if you want to hire me for the event in Nigeria, I am volunteering. I would love to be there. So if you want me to do those introductions, I would love to do that here and some. I have some comments here. Let me get to them. Ron says it sounds like he was talking about boxing or MMA, not wrestling. Well, Dambe, Ron, just go on YouTube and put in Dambe fighting. Just put it in there, and I'm telling you, you've seen nothing like this. This is really, I mean, I only other thing I could think of, I know MMA has been talked about. I guess slap fighting is the only other thing I could maybe see this comparable to, but I think this is even better than that. I think it's better than that. And our guest here in commenting says perhaps Luke's nickname could be I guess I don't know. I'm not going to pronunciate it, but basically the word means serenity. Great way to describe Luke in Hausa, a language of northern Nigeria. Well, thank you for telling us
Hausa.
that.
Yeah.
Hausa. Okay, well, that's why I didn't want to pronounce it because God forbid I butcher something else. The last thing I need to do is butcher more names. Ron says he'll check it out. And if you're on Sportswire Radio, I would love for you to check out past, present, and future shows and our past interview with Luke Leyland, find out why it was the most viewed in our show's history, and find out why this one's going to be even better, and why the next time when Luke comes on, he's going to talk about this experience and some here on our YouTube link here above. And I'll have more coverage coming up here on 11 o'clock Eastern time with a referee from Resurrection Pro Wrestling, and his name is Steven Silvestri, and Steven's going to talk about his journey, his background, and being a referee. We've had some really interesting interviews the last week on Sportswire. We had Jason Facina talking football. We've got you in fighting. We've got a referee coming on later tonight. So we're actually doing more things aside from wrestling. We're trying to expand our palettes again on Sportswire. That's why we are the #1 global radio station. And if you want to check us out also on our brand new link here on sportswireradio.org, we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And if you like a podcast, if you want to hear live music, you can check us out here anytime. If you have any suggestions, anything, I pay for the station. It's free. So if you want to be on Heard Worldwide Radio, if you want to put a podcast of yours out there, anything else, get in touch with me. We give people the opportunity to hear themselves also. If you like to check out our blog, we have a new blog on Tumblr at Sports by Radio, and you'll stay tuned later this week because I'll have a write-up on Luke Leyland going to Nigeria on January the 13th. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully, I make sure I do a little bit better with my grammar than my speaking, but we'll have to find out for sure. And I'll have more coverage coming up here Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame as our 4th member, Mr. Joshua Fletcher. He is the owner and he's the founder of XCW Shelbyville, the gold standard of semi-pro wrestling. They have celebrated their 20th year recently. They just had their Viewers' Choice Awards, Encounters Episode 1, which Omen Black was a huge part of. And Josh Fletcher is going to be inducted here into the Hall of Fame. I'm really, really excited about having Fletch back onto Sportswire Radio and talk all things related to XCW. It'll be one you will not want to miss. And congratulations, Josh Fletcher, for everything you've done for XCW and for this sport, and also for Sportswire Radio for allowing us to cover XCW. XCW is the gold standard of this sport, and I always continue to say endorsements are not given, they are earned. This one is earned. Joshua Fletcher has earned himself into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame alongside the man that trained you, Dean Allmark. It is going to be a real treat for Josh Fletcher, but right now I am having a phenomenal time with Mr. Luke Leyland himself. So obviously I've got a lot of different things here I want to talk about, but let's talk about your opponent, because your opponent is somebody that you've obviously been scouting. And for the audience listening and watching, let's talk about your opponent, who he is, and what we can expect between you and him on January the 13th.
So, yeah, my opponent is someone called GB Ian Sander. He's a young, powerful lad, very fit. I'm a knockout artist, and he's a Danbei champion as well. Watching him time and time again, I've sat there with obviously my trainer at the moment, Caleb, and we've looked at different things of how we can approach him and stuff. Is one thing that's quite weird that I've never really seen before when I've watched any combat sports is Jan Sander. He stays very flat on his feet, and I think that's to gain more power in his punch. But he can also move with that as well. So I've never really seen that before. He's quick on his feet, but he keeps his feet planted. So I've never really seen that before. But he's definitely a formidable opponent, and he's definitely someone who's going to be in history with me, and I'm looking forward to that.
When it comes to some of the things that you said, obviously don't tell me the strategy. I always tell people before a match on Sportswire, you know this, you've been here before. Don't tell me how you're going to win this match. Don't tell me how you do it. But with those things that you've pointed out, I mean, is there anything, let's say, in your routine that you focused on specifically? Is there anything in your day-to-day habits that maybe you're focusing on to kind of help you in terms of deal with what this type of offense and this type of, let's say, unique style that he's going to bring to the table that we're going to see on January the 13th?
There is stuff that we've been working on. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that yet, but there is stuff that we've been working on.
That was good. That was the best thing you're going to say the entire time on the show, because it'll come back to us.
Yeah, 100%. No, there is things there, but you know, I think it's going to be difficult for us both. It's going to be difficult for him because the last thing he wants is someone like me coming over from a different country, um, getting on the sand and winning. That's the last thing he's going to want. So, but the last thing I want is to lose as well. But it's going to be difficult for him because I'm not a standard Danbei fighter, and I'm going to be coming at him with different angles and just different things that I think he's going to struggle with. So we'll see how that goes there. And it's going to be obviously difficult for me because this is my Danbei debut. So it's going to be an interesting one, and it's definitely going to be a hit in history, and it's going to be one that people are not going to want to miss for this one. Absolutely.
If I were to say this, tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on this, Luke. You've obviously
Mm-hmm.
you've been in the fighting game. You've obviously wrestled, so you probably in a way know how this goes. And I'll get to some more comments in a second. But in terms of if I were to tell you that there's actually more pressure on your opponent because of the fact you're coming in here for all intents and purposes, you're an upstart. You're coming in here, you haven't done this before. You're not from the country, and you're almost kind of like this foreigner in a way, almost like when Rocky fought Drago and he was going to Russia and everybody was kind of
Yeah.
looking at American and he's, Drago and he just killed Apollo Creed. And not to say it's to this level, because I think you're going to certainly do a lot better than Rocky will in terms of that enhancement with the fans. But if I were to say to you, though, that conversely, that there's more pressure on your opponent going into this, what do you say to that?
I would agree. I would totally agree. And me going over there, if I go over there and okay, I lose, I can come back. This is something that I've wanted to do. It's something that nobody else would do. Um, I've done so. Hopefully, with this as well, I can kind of entice more different international fighters to go over and take part in it. But with him, he cannot lose. He cannot lose. He can't have someone as good looking as me going over there from a different
Yes,
country
and our first lady of
taking over.
Sportzwire, Miss Zena, definitely says you were very good looking. She says you were going to definitely do a great job out there in the ring, and she
But,
would certainly love to see you go out there and get the job done. Although she might want to see me out there and get hung out there in Nigeria, but obviously she definitely agrees that you were extremely attractive and extremely good looking. So there's no question that you've
but,
got that vote countered.
but no, it's in all seriousness, the pressure is on him. The pressure is on him, all on him, because he cannot lose this. He cannot lose this, and I'm coming over not to
Well,
lose
because
either.
you're coming in there into his environment. And I had this
Mhm.
conversation with somebody that came on the show off the air yesterday. We were talking, and he goes, Tom, you've interviewed a lot of people in your career. And he was talking about the fact, why do you think that home teams don't do well in sporting events or playoffs, whether it's, let's say, in football, whether it's in boxing, whether it's in wrestling to some extent? I say, because conversely, that home team, they have to deal with their fan base and they don't want to disappoint them. They almost feel like they have to work twice as hard to show that they're going to be able to do what they do best. And I think there's a possibility that if you're going to win this and you're going to get that job done and bring home a victory here, and not only bring home a victory, but maybe even bring home a victory for your country, for the UK. I mean, do you also look at that you're actually not just fighting for Luke Leyland, but you're fighting for the entire United Kingdom?
To be honest with me, with this experience, this is more so about me finding out about Danbei. I do feel like that obviously UK is watching, Great Britain will be watching, and I've also had a couple of messages from people within Great Britain saying, bring home the victory and these kind of things, which is brilliant and great to get. But for me, this is more about taking part in Danbei and getting Danbei a little bit more notice than me finding out about it and be able to bring more people over to compete in Danbei. So to be honest, I've got to be really honest with this. This is a lot more deeper than me and Jan Sander. This is history here. No one ever from Great Britain's gone over there. I'm one of the first people from outside of Africa to do it. So this goes a lot deeper than territorial. It's history. It's history in the making. So it's a lot more deeper than that.
Absolutely. And let me get to a few comments here from Big Dog. And Big Dog, thank you for tuning in. And Big Dog, if you want to subscribe to us here on YouTube, I would really, really appreciate that. And he says, loving Sportswire and the guest boss. He also says, mad respect to you. Absolutely. No question. And okay, so then I want to come back to the fight in a second, but I'm curious. I've been asking Luke a lot of people this question, especially as now we're going into 24 and you're starting off the year almost in a way that's a life-changing moment. It's an event that certainly a lot of people obviously would never get a chance for, and maybe not even want to kind of rise to the occasion here, but I have to ask it to you anyway. And what are your goals for 2024? Though obviously, I think we know what your goal is going to be is to win this Dambe fight and to all of a sudden start a completely different journey. But still, nevertheless, I ask you, what are your goals for 2024?
Well, it's hopefully get this fight done and dusted in a great way, and be able to highlight it to other international fighters, and then have a little look after the fight. Sit down with AWFC and see what business we can sort out from there. See if there's possibly another different kind of fight in the future. See if there's anything else that where we can go over to a different country together and take part in there. I've got a lot of ideas, and definitely I know Maxwell. Hopefully we'll get on to in a minute. He might have a couple of ideas there that we can collaborate with and go over with. But this, hopefully for me, is not just going to be a one-off and the end of anything. This is going to be like the big bang and the beginning of everything. So this is one of many for me.
I was wondering about that, and you said something interesting, and I was thinking the same thing here. Obviously, Dambe is massive in Africa. I mean, it really speaks for itself, and it's a really fascinating sport. And I guess it is started to gain some notoriety around the world. And I was wondering, because obviously you're now taking a part of this. I know obviously you're thinking about your own situation, but do you see Dambe ever becoming something where it's maybe something in the way like almost like think of like cricket, right? Cricket has become really big in the United States, and so I know it was always big in the UK, but in America, I see cricket. And obviously, I'm here in New York City, and I've noticed that in baseball, for example, a lot of baseball diamonds have been taken over by cricket. And obviously, our first lady at
Yeah,
Sportswire, Miss Zena, can certainly vouch for that because she lives near a lot of places like Marine Park in Brooklyn, for example, where it's become very big for cricket players. And cricket has become kind of an international game that is taken off here in the United States. And I was wondering, do you see Dambe maybe being bigger in terms of notoriety in places like the United States or in the UK? And do you see it maybe being something like a cricket where down the road maybe it takes off? I'm curious on what do you think about that?
yeah, absolutely, and that's to be honest, that's part of the reason why I wanted to be involved in this because it's growing fast, and with the work that Maxwell Kalu has put in and all the promotion work he's done with it, and growing African warriors and the notoriety of Dambe, he's done some excellent work there. It's getting bigger and it's getting bigger fast, and I predict in the future when it's massive and when it goes international, I can look back and say, despite winning or losing or whatever, I had a small part to play in that. And I mean, I think that'll just be, that'll be amazing to look back on and say, like, I was one of the first to go over and do it. Definitely, I can see it becoming international.
I think so too, because I look at what it has to offer in terms of the excitement, the offense of it. I look at the
Yeah,
overall just everything that it brings to the table in a short amount of time. I almost in a way think of it like if you're a fan of like drag racing in a way, like not to say it's the
yeah,
same as drag racing, but in terms of that just the instant offense. And
yeah,
especially as most people in society are an instant offense, an instant society. So the fact that I think that this could really take off, because boxing, I love
yeah,
boxing, and obviously I've interviewed a number of different boxers, and I always as a kid I wanted to actually box. I actually, we had a boxing punching bag when I was a kid growing up. My father actually fought one fight. He fought one fight in his career. He was 1-0. He didn't really go after. This was like 100 years ago. But the point is, I always loved boxing. But boxing, it's almost like it's a slow prodding thing, whereas society has become so used to UFC and MMA, Bellator, and obviously wrestling. We know we're all wrestling fans here, especially on Sportswire. But
yeah,
Dambe, I really think, could kind of fit in and really carve a huge niche because it's so short, it's so instant. It's like you're there and you watch it.
yeah,
Talk to me about it because I think that's really, really Dambe is going to take off, and especially this African Warriors event coming up. We're going to have 5 fights in an exhibition fight on January the
yeah.
13th. Is going to be the huge example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It's if you ever watch it like a full Danbei fight, it's some of them are quite short, but the longer ones, it's Maxwell has said it best. He said it's almost like a bomb waiting to go off. Like the weighing each other up, and then they're getting closer and closer. And the next thing, it's as the local people say, it's like organized warfare. So I think as I said before, I think it's going to go. It's that's what they say. It's like organized warfare, and it's going to be it's definitely going to go international. I just hope when it does, because it's only a matter of time before it goes international. When it does, I hope they don't change too much in it, because one of the things that attracted me was the originality of it, like the rope on the hand and
Yeah,
like the
that
sand
I
pit
find
and
that is like so fascinating there. That is like when you
yeah,
see everybody kind of tied up there, and it's almost like
yeah,
your one knee. I know people can't see it, but it's like one knee is going into the other person's, and then it's almost like not like a tug of rope, but it has that kind of just in a way like pull, that just gravitational pull that you don't get in boxing. Because in boxing, you get your gloves up and you punch and you hit. You don't
yeah.
really have much movement with that. But with this, you've got that gravitational pull, which I really find to be so fascinating.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things I haven't seen too much of in Danbei as well, and it makes me wonder why. So I haven't seen too many like spinning back fists or Superman punches, or you do see kicks in Danbei, but you don't see them too much. So it makes me wonder why. Like, is there a reason why they're not doing that? But I think when it does become international, I think you'll start seeing the development of it as well. You'll start seeing like new kind of styles coming in and things like that, and it's going to be very exciting. Danbei's definitely one to keep an eye on, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to be involved in it, because I just know it's going to be huge.
And I want to say hello to my buddy here, Skulls the Soul Hunter, who I hope is recovering well from his car accident last week. He's out there in the state of California. He's here with us at 1 o'clock p.m. his time, or 1:08 p.m. So I definitely look forward to seeing Skulls back onto Sportswire. So, I'm curious real quick. I know obviously there's only so much time here, but in terms of, okay, in boxing, you get hit, right? Somebody has the gloves on.
Mhm.
But in this, you get hit, and you get hit. Basically, your body is hit with that full gravitational force of somebody's pure hands, pure body shots. Emotionally and physically, that's actually a lot on somebody. I know you were watching it on YouTube, and it's like, yeah, no big deal. But I think mentally, like those reactions are actually a
Yeah.
lot harder to kind of, in a way, almost deal with, more or less. And I'm wondering, how do you react? I know you've wrestled, and I know you've done some different things. I know you've trained. But in terms of just how do you deal with that in order to stay composed? Because that's a lot. Because people, when we get into fights as kids, right? And I would
Mhm.
get into a fight with somebody, and obviously, you're punching them, blah 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 blah, and then but you're dealing with that composure where your body is like saying all these things in your head, and I'm curious, and how do you deal with that part in order to stay composed in what you want to do and be able to win this fight here in the January 13th show?
I think the closest you can get to actually competing in Danbei or anything like that, I think is hard sparring. And I think the more hard sparring you do, the more kind of almost acclimatized you become to it, I think. And someone told me years ago, it's you can't get in the shower without getting wet. You're not going to be able to get into this fight without getting punched. It's something that it's a lot of this is it's mental, and it's mentally preparing yourself, and that's where Caleb has come in for me. He spoke to me about mentally preparing yourself and different ways of breathing and the importance of breathing, and control the breathing will control the exercise, and the mental side of it is preparing to get in the shower and get wet. And this is something I'm calm about at the moment, but I may be a little bit more anxious about getting closer to the event. But
Oh, you gotta have
it's
nerve.
just
Listen,
something
I,
that
I
could
I know you are Mr.
100%.
Cool Hand
Yeah,
Luke, but when we're getting into those moments, maybe not today, maybe even not next week, but as the days approach, you gotta have the stomach knots. Listen, if you don't have the nerves,
yeah,
you don't have the stomach knots, that means that there's something wrong. So there's no question you're gonna face and feel something as we get closer to January 13th. You have to.
yeah, 100%. And that's what I've got. I was always been brought up with by the saying of if you're not scared, you're a coward. So everyone's scared. Everyone's scared going into something like this, especially something like this where no one really has ever done before in Great Britain. Going out there into Nigeria, into a sport that I've never been in before, that not many people from my area is really seeing, and to go into organised warfare, so to say, is yeah, it is nerve wracking. But as I say, with the fire that is fear, I'm looking to cook many steaks, and I'm looking forward to it.
I have no doubt that you will, and you want to follow Luke out there on Instagram at Luke Leyland One, the African Warriors on Instagram and TikTok at African Warriors FC, YouTube at African Warriors Fighting Championship, where you'll be able to see all of this firsthand and previous stuff and footage, and Twitter at African WFC and AfricanWarriorsFC.com for more information. Support this fight, support everything that this thing is putting put together, and it's a great thing, and I'm looking forward to more coverage of it in the near and distant future. And Skull says it is like bare knuckles. Yeah, I hadn't thought about bare knuckle fighting. I think that's an interesting one because I think years ago on Sportswire we had on the I guess it was the CEO of actually it was a Fight TV. It was no, yeah, it was Fight TV. Michael Weber. Michael Weber came on here and he talked about with me, and it's probably somewhere on my SoundCloud page at the Sports Report 2019, the early stages of the Sports Report. I was able, by the grace of God, really, the grace of God, to be able to get an interview with Michael Weber. And he talked about bare knuckle fighting, how big that was with people and different pay-per-views and different. So that's a good point. Thank you, Skulls, for bringing that up. And thank you for that as well, for your hard work. And I hope that you're feeling better at this, Skulls. So let's talk about Mr. Maxwell. Obviously, Mr. Maxwell has been a huge part of this thing here. And talk to me about Mr. Maxwell and the importance of just the overall experience here.
Yeah, well, first of all, getting involved or trying to get involved in all this that's going on now, I realised I had to speak to someone about it, and getting in touch with African Warriors, they put me in touch with Maxwell, and within a couple of days, Maxwell said, let's set up a meeting and let's see what you've got to say, and straight away I could see that Danbay is very important to Maxwell, and the history of Danbay is very important to Maxwell and the culture and everything else. You can see that. And he was almost quite protective over it, as he wanted to find out more about myself first before obviously introducing me to it and getting me involved. And I can understand why, because, he wanted the right person to be able to come over and represent myself well and hopefully, now the sport well and doing my best over there. So, yeah, eventually we had a couple of meetings, and he's I feel just as crazy as me. And he said, "You know what? Let's do it. I think we can do great things." He said, "I think we can do great things with it," and we both agreed. We're kind of doing it both for Danbay, to get Danbay a bit more recognised as well, and hopefully, as I say, I'd love to be able to get more people over to take part in Danbay, and which will hopefully raise the profile of it. And then
I think the first lady of Sportswire, Ms. Zena, would love to see me, because she was mad at me on something right now, and I apologize for that. But I think she would love to see me be out there and some Danbay fighter hit me so hard that I'll never be able to come up and get back up again. But that's obviously, I think some people might want to see that happen. Some people would agree with that. But obviously, I know with you, this is going to be a really, really exciting project, and I can't wait for it. I'm really, really excited here, and I want people to go out there and definitely check it out. Obviously, AfricanWarriorsFC.com for all the links, all the link trees. Obviously, Instagram as well for you on Luke Leyland 1. And I have to ask, I have to bring up Dean Allmark, and I have to bring up Dino. I mean, do you talk to Dean about this at all? Is he able to give any advice of any sorts? I mean, I know it's a totally different thing, but what has Dean said to you? I mean, Dean came on, we spoke a little bit about you, but we didn't know the details at that moment. So, but I'm curious if Dean has said anything to you.
Yeah, so when this first came about, I obviously, people were meant to come with me over there, and then it turns out I was going on my own, and then I wasn't too sure if I was making some right decisions, because with the decision-making process, it was only me that was really doing it. I didn't really have anybody else that I could sit down with and discuss with, so it was just me at the time. And then going over, I had a lot of doubters. People laughing at me, people saying,
why were they laughing at you? Why, knowing you and the person that you are, I mean, why would they laugh at you?
I don't know. I mean, it's look, people are different, aren't they? I feel like this is my destiny to do this. Other people I don't think like that. Other people think I'm going to get badly hurt over there. Some people think I'm not even going to come back from Africa. So with having so many doubters saying things
Listen,
like this,
you're not Peter McNeely against Mike Tyson. I mean, you're not some just nobody. I mean, you've actually, I think you're one of these guys that if you do it, it's gonna happen. I mean, I don't laugh at you. I mean, I've known you a while, and you don't strike me as somebody that would go out there and embarrass themselves. I mean, that's what I think, at least.
Well, for me, I mean that was my experience. There's a lot of people like doubting me with this, and eventually I remember meeting up with Dean and just telling them that, like, I think this is a great opportunity for me, but for some reason, everyone that I've come into contact with seems to think it's a bad idea, and I'm going to get pounded into the ground basically and embarrassed. And Dean was sitting there, and he literally just said to me, "Hope he doesn't mind me telling you this, but." He said, you've got to go out there and be yourself, and this is a great opportunity for you. This is your destiny to go out there and do this. And these people that are doubting you are just NPCs, non-playable characters. And he said, and you are the main character, and you're going to complete this game. So go out there and be your main character. And that was something like that really hit home with me. And I thought, you're right. These people are just NPCs that are doubting me there, and if that's fine. If they want to sit there and laugh, that's totally fine. Everyone's
if they're laughing,
has their own opinion.
Block them out. Listen, those people clearly they need to be out of your life. They're hangers. But I don't what you're saying in general. But the truth is that, listen, I agree with Dean, because Dean has traveled and Dean has done some amazing things. And our amazing first lady of Sportswire, Miss Dean, our amazing first lady here, listen, she should take over the job. We'll get more viewers, I'm sure, and listeners. And I agree with her, because she's obviously the first lady of Sportswire. The ignorant would laugh at someone incredible as Luke. Well, I mean, I couldn't have put it as eloquently as that way. That's why she's obviously the number one here on Sportswire. So we thank Miss Dina for this excellent comment, because that's basically, I could have said that the entire time, but nobody would want to hear that. But the fact of the matter is, if she said it, that's why the people, and I think that's the truth. No, all kidding aside, I really think, though, that you've done something or about to do something that I think a lot of people really, I think, gain a lot of respect from you for. Because I think that you are the main thing I take away from this, that you are stepping out of your comfort zone. It'd be very easy to go out there, listen, on Sportswire, yeah, we could put you in the ring with RPD. Yeah, we could put you in the ring with Joel Cobra. We could put you in the ring with anybody you want in Bentley in the UK. We could make that happen in 15 minutes. But you're actually going out to another part of the world. You are going a part of a massive thing in the African Warriors, which again has, they're going to have thousands of people there. You got 200,000 followers on Instagram. You got people there left and right. You're going there. I mean, to me, what I take away is you are completely going out of your comfort zone and doing something that nobody in their entire life would even dare think about trying. And I think that's why Miss Zena is right, our first lady of Sportswire, that you are incredible, because the fact of the matter is that this is really somebody that you have a lot of courage in who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot of confidence in myself, Mr. Bryce, and it's not cockiness, it's confidence. And as I say, I'm on a win-win for this anyway. It's all about experience for me. And it's something that I've been waiting for now for the best part of a year to come off. And as I said, people are different, so people can view this and see it as a crazy thing. Other people can see this as a great thing. For me, it's going to be a great experience, and it's definitely something that's going to be. It's going to, as I keep saying, it's going to be a hit in history. And on the 13th of January, I'll reach my destiny. I'll reach my goal. I'll reach on the sand. I'm aiming for respect as soon as I land in Nigeria. I'm aiming for respect with the culture around Nigeria. I'm aiming for respect with Jan Sander. And as soon as I step on the sand on the 13th of January, I'll be aiming for his chin. And then it'll be silence to all the people.
I don't think he's going to have much of a chin left after January the 13th at the African Warriors Fighting Championship Kings of Dambe event. But I have to ask you, obviously we're about a little more time, about 15 or 20 more minutes here with Mr. Luke Leyland. Of course, Luke Leyland is certainly one of the most important people in Sportswire radio history, and it's going to be one hell of a journey for him. It's January the 13th. He's going to be a part of the Kings of Dambe African Warriors Fighting event. You can follow Luke here on Instagram Instagram at Luke Leyland 1. You can also check out the African Warriors Fighting Championship on all their different platforms. They got pretty much all of it here. They got a Linktree page on Instagram. They're also at AfricanWarriorsFC.com. And I'm going to definitely be looking forward to anything we can do for the African Warriors, any coverage they want, anybody they would love for us to talk to. We gladly do it here on Sportswire. So if it's known, let it be known to the powers that be at the African Warriors Fighting Championship. We would love to be able to have them on Sportswire, anything we can particularly do, because we definitely see that this is going to be something that's going to be groundbreaking and revolutionary for those around the rest of the world. You mentioned Nigeria, and I was wondering this. Do you get a chance to maybe experience the culture and take in some of the stuff? I know you're going there to fight. You want to beat up Jan Sander. You want to break his chin, basically break his face, everything else. But yeah, I'm curious, and do you get a chance to take in that experience and what the culture will be? Because I'm curious, because obviously as somebody and myself that's not going there, but for the audience and obviously the fans of yours, do you get a chance to kind of take in all that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going over a little earlier than the 13th of January. We're going over there hopefully to try and acclimatise. It's going to be really hot over there as well in January. I think it's going to be similar to their summer, I believe. So it's going to be very, very hot. So going over there a little earlier, hopefully I'll be experiencing the culture of Lagos and a few things around there, and then we go over to Katsina from there, where I'll be experiencing the culture over there as well. I'll hopefully be training with a couple of the Down Bay fighters, and then we go from there, marching into the 13th. So I'm looking forward to as I say, to seeing the culture. That's going to be one big thing for me, experiencing it. And there's with Down Bay, it's not just about the getting on the sand there and fighting. There's a massive spiritual culture around it, and you go really, really deep with that. And this has been going for like the 9th, 10th century, so it's like over 1,000 years old. So this is why I say, it's not just about me trying to represent Great Britain or anything like that at all. It goes deeper than that. This is historic here, and hopefully we can get Down Bay a lot bigger than we can imagine. And I think it is going to go a lot bigger than we can imagine. I think it's going to go international. But in order to do all that, the first thing is, me going over there, and Maxwell's doing a fantastic job as it is, and hopefully I can add to that with what we're doing here.
I got no doubt that you were gonna add something to it, and some. You were gonna definitely give them the spark, and I'm so excited about this, and I can't wait for January the 13th. I mean, I'm counting the days, I'm counting the minutes, the seconds, and I certainly hope that you'd be kind enough after January the 13th to come back here and certainly talk about this experience. And again, as anybody that's a part of this here with the African Warriors and the Fighting Championship itself, I would be more than happy to bring them on to Sportswire and talk about this. Obviously, I got a few more things I want to ask. I know you're a busy man. You're probably getting ready for a run right now. You're getting ready for a cleansing. You're getting ready for a fast, to sleep, whatever it might be. But I was wondering also if there was anything that you would want to say to the people watching this on why that they should tune in and kind of follow you on this journey. What would be the one or two things you'd want to tell to the people here watching and everybody else that's finding out about this?
Well, as I say, this is going to be one of the first. It's definitely the first of its kind. No one from Great Britain, I understand, has gone out there and done this before. So this is history in the making, literally. You're just going to see a lad from Birkenhead go over to Nigeria and do his absolute best against the Down Bay champion. It's never been done before from England or Great Britain. I'm going to also be one of the first outside of Africa to do it. So it's, as I say, it's like it's first in history, and you're going to want to see it live. I can guarantee you that whatever the outcome is, everyone's going to know that I was on that sand on the 13th of January. So it's going to be huge, and I can guarantee you, as I stand here now, it's definitely going to be one that you are not going to want to miss.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, listen, forget about all your plans on January the 13th. Forget about whatever it is, taking down the Christmas lights, maybe going out to get hot cocoa, maybe going out to return that Christmas gift. Maybe you have to go and get a gift card. You want to exchange it for cash, whatever it might be. Maybe you want to see a movie because you're bored or it's too cold outside. You don't want to go anywhere. Well, you know what? Take all of it, put it to the side. Go to all the African Warriors links on social media. Go out there and just support this movement. You can do it African Warriors FC on Instagram, Luke Leyland 1 on Instagram, African Warriors Fighting Championship on YouTube, where you can see past footage. I mean, there's a lot that you can certainly find out from Luke, and also the African Warriors, Mr. Maxwell, and everybody else involved here. And I wanted to ask you, in terms of your opponent, do you have any final words for Mr. Saunders Henderson?
Mr. Jan Sanders, I've got no final words. I've only got final actions, and you'll see that on the 13th of January.
Oh, man, he's straight to the point. Luke Leyland certainly knows his audience. He knows his audience, that he's not even saying anything to Jan Sanders. He just basically, listen, I'm going to come out there. I'm going to take you. I'm going to eat you alive. Listen, Jan Sanders, you don't know what you're in for. Listen, to quote Judas Priest, you've got another thing coming. I mean, listen, there is certainly going to be one that I am not going to miss. I was thinking about this, Luke. I was going to surprise you on the air, because obviously we're coming toward the end of the show. I know you're a busy man. Obviously you very much know that Mr. Allmark is into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Obviously, he's Dean Allmark. He defeated Jushin Thunder Liger. He trained you, Tony Storm, Timeless Tony Storm, the AEW World Champion, Bryan Danielson. But, I was thinking about, obviously, from what you're doing here, really is groundbreaking. It's revolutionary. The first person from Great Britain to ever go out there and fight in a Dambe fight, to be a part of the African Warriors Fighting Championship. I was wondering, after this all takes part, and when you come back into Sportswire Radio, I would hope you'd want to come back and talk to me. Maybe you don't want to. I don't know. Definitely. But I was thinking, maybe after January the 13th, how would it sound to you after you win your first fight and your first of many fights here when it comes to Dambe fighting? How would you like to be maybe a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame alongside the man that trained you, Mr. Dean Allmark? How does that sound? Especially since you are making history here as the first person from Great Britain to ever compete in a Dambe fight.
That sounds just perfect, Mr. Bryson. I'll be absolutely honored to be part of something like that. Absolutely. I was to be next to Dean on it as well. I mean,
and I think you've obviously accomplished something that Dean... And you know what? You've obviously accomplished something that Dean's never going to be able to certainly partake in. I'm sure Mr. Allmark's not going to want to do that.
Never doubt Mr. Allmark. Never doubt.
I've learned that.
Never doubt Mr. Allmark.
I've learned that from knowing Mr. Allmark for the past 4 or 5 months. I've certainly learned that, but you certainly, at the very least, have one up to Mr. Allmark. So, I mean, I would definitely love to have you back whenever your time allots you to induct you into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, because you are very deserving. Because if you think about it, again, you're the most viewed interview in Sportswire Radio history on YouTube. Our biggest interview all time is a guy, Mark the Tank Ellens, who is a great British boxing MMA champion somewhere, and he's undefeated still. He was on a strongman competition as well, Mark the Tank Ellens. But what you've done here in being the first, you're really groundbreaking. You're revolutionary. So I think from the aspect of being revolutionary and groundbreaking, you absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. So I think that you being in the Hall of Fame, we can have that ceremony, and I can certainly maybe work on induction speech for you, that intro, and maybe I'll need 2 big gulps instead of 1. So I think that you definitely should be in this Hall of Fame on Sportswire Radio. And I think, by the way, I'm trying to actually figure it, because I think Justin Parsley had mentioned it to me. RPD also said they asked me. He said, "Well, what do we get for being in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?" So I've actually figured it out, Luke. What we're actually going to do here in a second. I'm going to get to our first lady of Sportswire. Zena is going to comment here in a second, but I'm going to read that comment off. But I think what we're going to actually do to give people, I think I'm going to come up with like a citation award or a certificate, because I think that's the best thing I could come up with. Because people are like, well, do I get money? Do I get something? I'm like, I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, we have a blog. We'll have a press release. We'll do that. But I think a proclamation or a certificate basically saying Luke Leyland, member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I mean, what do you think about a citation or a certificate? Also, in addition to that, what do you think?
Absolutely, and it'll go right next to all me other little awards there as well. That'll be absolutely.
Oh, you got many of them. You got many of them. Well, I can't wait for that. I'm really excited.
Well, not too many, but the Sportswire want to be one of the top ones. Let me promise you that. Definitely.
You know what? Well, now you're really getting me fired up, and I think it was the right thing. So I was actually looking up how do I do these citations and proclamations, but I'll figure it out, because I kind of have an idea. I don't know definitively, but it's going to be very easy once I figure out how to actually type it up and write it. It's just a format, but that's here nor there. And I got a great comment here from our first lady of Sportswire, Miss Zena, who says, it is quite fascinating that Dombey originally started out among the lower class of the house, I think it is, right? Trained animal slaughterers, and look how far it has come. That's interesting. That's a very fascinating point. I mean, what do you
So
think about that? Because I wouldn't know anything about that.
yeah, so I believe from what I've read upon, it was started off with the butcher cask groups, and they used to. Some of them would use it as kind of entertainment, and the other would use it as preparation for war. That's how
Oh
I
wow.
believe it started out. So it's there's a lot of history behind this, and it's I'm looking forward to learning like so much about it. And obviously, when I come back, I can give you all the fascinating details and stuff as well. But there's yeah, it started out a long time ago with the butcher cast groups, I believe.
Hmm. Well, I'd love to know more about that. That's really fascinating because every time I go and look at the butcher, I think, well, they're just cutting up the meat, but they're actually doing something else completely different. But then again, you're gonna butcher up Jan Sanders. You're gonna butcher him up on January the 13th. You're gonna basically take that fist of yours and you're gonna pound it into him like ground meat, and it's gonna be just punch after punch after punch, and he's going to be knocked down. And you're going to talk about it here as a Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer, being 1-0 in your first Dombey fight, your first of many fights. I mean, forget about the filmmaking, forget about the wrestling, forget about Dean Allmark, forget about all that, because you're going to be 10 times bigger now, because you're going to be like the next Dombey fighting champion. And you know what? Listen, if Logan Paul could go out there and be this reality star turned WWE champion, if Jake Paul can be this legitimate boxer, I mean, why not Luke Leyland? Why not Luke Leyland, ladies and gentlemen? If the Paul
Exactly.
brothers can do it, this man's more calm, he's more collected, he's more cool, he's better, he's bigger, he's better, he's all of that anthem. So why not him? This is the guy, ladies and gentlemen, that I am putting my money on. In fact, I would put all my money right now on this man, Luke Leyland. I'm going to put it on to him because I know, Jan Sanders, you're going to be going down for the count. It's going to be short work for you. Luke, you got this. I have no problem whatsoever in having my faith in you, because you're going to be a Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame by the next time you come on here after that induction. And there is no doubt about it here that you definitely are going to do this here and some. And our first lady also says here that she's in your corner. You're absolutely right. And he is the word you said, I can't pronounce it. Clearly, Nutsawawa, or whatever it is. Nuts and bolts. It could be like chock full of nuts to coffee, whatever it might be. But I know that your background, everything you do, is going to lead us here to the promised land. And I can't wait for January the 13th. One more time before closing thoughts. You can follow Luke on Instagram at Luke Leyland1, African Warriors, on a number of different platforms, Instagram and TikTok, which I got to get on TikTok. People keep telling me I have to be on TikTok. I will one day. African Warriors FC, YouTube, African Warriors Fighting Championship. Also, again, for more information, you can go to AfricanWarriorsFC.com. I'm excited about January the 13th. Anything we can do in Sportswire to cover this show, cover the fighters, whatever else, I am more than happy to do it. But most importantly, Luke, I can't wait to have you back on here. And Zena tells me, why do I have so many singles? Well, I think you didn't see that many singles. It was more like the 20s mixed with the 10s and 5s, because I have, Monopoly. It's a joke. I was just trying to be funny. But that's here nor there. Luke, I could talk to you all day, but obviously I know you're a busy man. You got to get ready for that 5 a.m. run. And I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts. And I don't want to say that I want to thank you for everything. Really, knowing you the past year has been an absolute honor. Speaking with you, talking to you about off the air about different things, getting your advice. You always give me constructive feedback on Sportswire. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being one of my biggest supporters. And it's because of people like you, I would not have made it almost 5 years to Sportswire. It's people like you that have allowed me to grow. It's people like you that have believed in me. It's people like you that have continued to allow me to grow and to talk with different people. And obviously, most importantly, giving me the opportunity to speak with one of the greatest British wrestlers that has ever been, when it comes to the one and only, the legendary Dean Allmark. So I can thank you all day, but I know after January the 13th, I'm going to be able to officially call you a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So until then, I want to give you the floor, my friend. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you for everyone with the brilliant comments there and tuning in to watch it, and just with yourself, Mr. Bryce, with like Dean or Mark, great personalities do need like great interviewers. So this is the only place that I thought the Dean or Mark fitted in, and obviously it's you
Yeah,
both
because
hit
Dean
it off
doesn't
great.
know how to
So
podcast. Dean actually
yeah,
said
100%.
he was like, no, he actually said I was good. He's like, you were different. You were well spoken. You actually knew who I was. You watched and and I was like, I'm like, Dean, of course I know who you are. You've come up on Sportswire. I was like, how many British wrestlers have I had on over the past 5 years? And it was like, no kidding aside. No, and obviously, like, he really, Mr. Allmark, really, really liked coming on, and he liked coming on so much, he's coming back on again in 2024. And he said to me that he
Yeah.
wants to come on more often. So the fact that Mr. Allmark, he really liked me, I really appreciate that very much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said, great personalities do need great interviewers, and this is the only the place I think that he's suited well with you, and it was awesome. No, I just want to thank Delusional Optimist just for the support with them as well. You can find their clothing line, delusionaloptimist.co.uk, and thank you for African Warriors as well, AWFC, for putting all this together. It's going to be
Absolutely.
one great entertaining night, January 13th, 2024, and there's going to be fireworks on that sand that you're going to see from New York City. I promise you that.
Oh, baby, I can't wait, because in New York City, well, we really technically aren't allowed to have fireworks, but I'm not going to need to have any fireworks, because I'm going to watch you get the job done, a part of this historic African Warriors Fighting Championship, as Luke Leyland is going to be the first ever person from Great Britain to fight in this African Warriors Fighting Championship. And this is why she is the first lady, because she knows exactly what she's talking about. And getting to know Luke for the past hour has been an honor. And I think it's going to be an honor to watch you, sir, January the 13th. And I think it's going to be an even greater honor to induct you into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame right after January the 13th. So thank you so much for all you do. I hope you have a wonderful new year. Happy holidays. I can't wait to talk with you. I'm looking forward to more of those 5 a.m. runs I see on Instagram. And, certainly I'm sure Dean is going to now have to move on over, because you're going to be into the Hall of Fame next to him. And I think it's very poetic, and I think it's very fitting. And thank you for all you've done for me. And I can't wait to watch this event, and I can't wait to talk about it here. Anything else I can do, I'm always here. And just happy holidays. Go get him out there. And just thank you for just making us all proud here on Sportswire.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Thank you, Zena. Thank you for everyone watching. Thanks for that. Have a great Christmas, and I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Mr. Luke Leyland, who's going to be on one hell of a journey on January the 13th. He's going to be a part of the African Warriors Fighting Championship event. It's going to be 5 Dombe fights, 1 special exhibition. You can go to AfricanWarriorsFC.com. You can also go to Instagram for all the information. On Luke's page, it's Luke Leyland 1 on Instagram. For the African Warriors Fighting Championship page, also on Instagram, you can check them out as well. Please make sure you support them. Do anything you can. They're also TikTok. It's the same thing. African Warriors FC. YouTube at African Warriors Fighting Championship. Also Twitter, African Warriors FC. Make sure you support them and everything else. We want to thank Mr. Maxwell. We want to thank everybody there for giving us this opportunity to speak with Luke. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. I'll have more coverage here later tonight with referee Stephen Silvestri, while Luke is running out there at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, in the deep cold in the UK. I'm going to be speaking to referee at Resurrection Pro Wrestling, Stephen Silvestri. Thursday night, I'll be back with 7 o'clock Eastern time with somebody you're going to be right next to in the Hall of Fame, Josh Fletcher, the owner and operator of XCW Shelbyville, the longest-running semi-pro company in Indiana for 20 years. He's going to be inducted into our Hall of Fame 7 o'clock Eastern time, so I can't wait for that, and I can't wait to induct you. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.